So leptin is a hormone released from fat cells located in adipose tissue that sends signals to the hypothalamus in the brain. And its release from adipose tissue, leptin amounts directly to the connected individual's amount of body fat. What does that mean? The amount of body fat, that much amount of leptin should be produced. Okay. And what does leptin do? So leptin is produced at adipose tissue. It travels all the way to hypothalamus. So it takes time to work. And then at hypothalamus, it changes the centers that actually bring about appetite and satiety. And what does leptin do? Leptin is such a hormone that we can call it as your own personal trainer. So if you have healthy levels of leptin, you are slim, trim, fit. It controls appetite by signaling to stop eating. But there is much more now, which we know. And I will not open that Pandora's box right now. Maybe in future, we'll do many such sessions where I'll put up tidbits and bits of this information. Leptin, most importantly, it helps regulate energy expenditure. So if the leptin levels are high, the energy expenditure is more. That's why it is needed. And as the name sounds, that it helps, leptin helps maintaining the body weight. So nowadays, obesity is more than just insulin resistance. It could be leptin resistance. And we can test it. But the sad part is we still don't have. Now, there is a counterpart to leptin, and that is if leptin is controlling the appetite by stopping and telling us not to eat, giving us a feeling of satiety, there has to be another hormone that is needed in order to make us feel hungry, and that is ghrelin. Ghrelin is produced in the stomach and small intestine with a little bit of hormone released in pancreas and also in brain. It has been called as hunger hormone because of its role in controlling appetite, leading to storage of fat. Okay. Ghrelin also plays a role in pituitary gland's function, where ghrelin receptors trigger the stimulation of the hormones. It appears to control insulin release and plays a protective role in cardiovascular health. So that is where the ghrelin becomes important. And the interplay of leptin and ghrelin is very interesting. So leptin, when it is adequate, it inhibits ghrelin. And in turn, the ghrelin is inhibiting or releasing leptin. So this is what they do, something like the feedback mechanism. And this feedback mechanism may be bad or miscalculated in obese individuals. So that is what we have to remember. Can we test it? Of course you can do, but it will burn your pocket. Okay. Now, we should understand what exactly causes, what kind of food causes. So when we look at it, the food's long-term obesogenicity is modified by its complex effects on satiety, feeling of fullness, glucose, insulin responses, hepatic fat synthesis, adipocyte function, brain craving, and the microbiome. Don't forget it. And even the metabolic expenditure that is there. With most of the population being lazy and the metabolic expenditure being minimum, then anything that we eat will in turn make that food to be obesogenic. So obesity and ensuing metabolic disorders are becoming epidemic. Why? Because of all these factors. Look at what is happening with the modern society. So the modern society is not satisfied with what they have. And why is that? That is because of the way we are trained, the way we are trained to function, the way we are doing our job, right? So there is no satiety, there is no satisfaction there. And that spills over to being into the normal life, coming it down into the disease. So that's why it's a very complex mechanism. And if you have such complex mechanism, it's not easy to treat it, right? So now look at as another aspect, okay? To quote pathologist Dr. Joseph R. Kraft, the father of insulin assay, he was the one who started insulin assay. Those with cardiovascular disease not identified with diabetes are simply undiagnosed. Diabetes is a vascular disease. And he found and he said that insulin assay is needed to understand. So whether you are diagnosed with diabetes first or cardiovascular disease first, it's just a matter of time. Irrespective of what disease you are diagnosed, it is because of the insulin. Now, look at, as I told, what are the predisposition that obesity can do that. So here, this is what we have to be very, very careful. Inflammation and adiposity. Inflammation. And what are the levels of inflammation? And that's all that is there. Why I'm showing you this is to make sure that this paper was presented in way back in 2003, and it still holds true. Still holds true. That what actually happens is decrease in adenopectin, increase in lactin, increase in leptin, increase in resistin, increase in insulin. So all these things are related to inflammation, which is brought about by being obese. Okay, and the resultant factors are all that we see. And the most important thing to remember is premature aging. Okay. Now look at endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is important for systemic energy homeostasis. We have seen that happening, including brain, liver, adipose tissue, and skeletal muscles. Endocannabinoids, as we know, they are just lipid derivatives that activate the cannabinoid receptors. AEA and 2-AG are elevated in obese individual as well as in type 2 diabetes. It means that the endocannabinoid system is not deficient but hyperactive or upregulated. So in all cases of diabetes, type 2 especially, and obesity, remember that endocannabinoid system is upregulated. And that what actually happens is it alters the CB1, CB2 directed signaling that can impact negatively upon energy metabolism. And also, we have seen that endocannabinoid system modulate mitochondrial integrity and functioning. So if endocannabinoid system is hyperactive, the mitochondrial integrity and functioning is something lost. So we have seen this. That's what I have seen. Apart from what we have already been discussing across so many days, that endocannabinoid system not only helps us eat, sleep, relax, and euphoria, but also takes care of food intake regulation, energy balance, lipid and glucose balance, homeostasis, neuroprotection, inflammation, and pain modulation. So now I'm giving you a broader explanation. And we have seen this slide and how it works. Now look at the extended system of endocannabinoid system. So here we have N-palmitoyl ethanolamide. This is endocannabinoids extended one. So we have known AEA and 2-AG, but there are these other things that play a very, very important role. One is N-palmitoyl ethanolamide, which is PEA. It is also available as medicine in India. Okay. N-steroyl ethanolamide, SEA, N-oleol ethanolamide, OEA, N-linoleal ethanolamide, LEA, and N-icosapentonyl ethanolamide, or what we call as coming from omega-3. So these are the endocannabinoids, the extended endocannabinoids. Now we know. And same thing is this extended endocannabinoids, they work on the extended receptor system that we have. So most important in this is OEA, the oleol ethanolamide, an endogenous bioactive mediator of lipid homeostasis, exerts vascular protection against intimal calcification and atherosclerosis. So if oleol ethanolamide goes low, then you can imagine what will happen. And OEA serves as a prospective candidate for prevention and treatment of vascular calcification in metabolic abnormality syndromes. Now, oleic acid, any idea where oleic acid is formed? It is mostly found in olive oil, but it's also found in cannabis. Oleotroic acid is commonly found in cannabis. And this oleic acid or oleotroic acid or olive oil derived oleamides, as we call them, they are all very, very important in the role of lipid synthesis. So that is what it means, and what this is what we need to. That's why the Mediterranean diet, it got #1 rank because of their consumption of olive oil. They consume a lot of olive oil and omega-3s. So now, if you look at what actually happens in obesity, the endocannabinoid system, what it happens. So the obesity-related alterations that we have seen in endocannabinoid system are because of excessive CB1 activation. Remember this. The obesity is because of excessive CB1 activation. And what it does is, if there is excessive CB1 activation, there is increase in food intake, mitigation of energy expenditure. So the energy is less spent. And because you remember the tetrad of cannabinoid induced tetrad, you may see all of those signs, but in a different way. And then apart from that, preservation of energy, thereby causing accumulation of fat in adipose tissue. So we have to remember this aspect, which the normal doctors don't understand. And the endocannabinome mediators like PEA, OEA, 2AG, 2LG, all these things, they influence the energy metabolism by activating non-cannabinoid receptors such as PPAR alpha receptor, TRPV1 receptor, and also the GPR55.
Family physician. The family physician especially for new people like her, it will take 5 years. I was there. Oh, and he referred.
Welcoming Dr. Palavani. Okay, so this is another aspect of endocannabinoid system that we see in this. So this is what actually happens. The key observation: cannabis use causes rapid and long-lasting down-regulation of CB1 receptor. When we talk about cannabis here, we are talking about the whole spectrum cannabis, not just THC. Remember that. The CB1 receptor gets into down-regulation, and because of the reduced receptor density, there is reduced sensitivity and diminished response. So this is what we have seen. So the cannabis in the whole spectrum, in the entourage effect, causes down regulation of CB1 receptor in periphery, and because of which we see the positive things. Now, apart from this, we have also seen leptin deficiency and activation of endocannabinoid system. Now, if you look at the influencing, if you want me to go into the details, I can go into so much details. And the most important detail is low-fat diet is what predisposes us for adiposity, not the contrary to what modern medicine or the modern cardiologist has been talking about. This is, in short, I'm talking. And the overactivation of endocannabinoid system is a hallmark of obesity. Remember that, and explains the success of pharmacological CB1 blockade. And Rimonabant, the first slide that I showed, which was the headline, it is inverse agonist of CB1 receptor. So this is how the mitochondria energy expenditure is related. So the CB1 and CB2 receptors via MPK and ceramide pathway, they decrease the mitochondrial biogenesis, decrease fatty acid beta oxidation, and decrease the mitochondrial respiration. So if the endocannabinoid system is high, it means that mitochondria are underperforming. Remember that. And because of that, we see what happens in obese people. They are dull, they are lazy, they are sleepy, and that is what one of the things. And look at the tetrad of cannabinoids, it looks into that. Okay. So here, cannabis not only improves the quality of life of many people, but it also prevents premature death. And this was very, very important. Very, very important factor. Instead of knowing that the cannabis can cause death, but they found that it prevents premature death. And obesity is like premature aging. And regular, so this is very interesting study that had people who have been regularly using cannabis had significantly greater insulin secretion as defined by the insulinogenic index compared with never users. So people who use generally for whatever reasons they are using cannabis, they tend to be better, slimmer, metabolically better. And within this study, a positive correlation was found to exist between the amount of cannabis used in relation to lower BMI. In one study, evidence was shown that BMI was decreased even in cannabis users who had higher daily caloric intake in comparison with non-users. Now, this is very important, something which is which people don't highlight, that the regular users, they, even though they may have a carbohydrate-rich diet, but their BMI was low. And most important is CBD has promising potential as therapeutic agent and might be effective in alleviating the symptoms of insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. That's what we are discussing today. So if you understand that what CBD does, CBD blocks. So here I would like to remind you one more thing. And that thing is that CBD that CBD is a molecule here. And what CBD does is it doesn't block the CB1 or CB2 receptor. It just inhibits the metabolism of anandamide. But the high dosing of CBD, it blocks CB1 receptor. That is what is remembered. And that is what we need to understand when we do the therapy for obese people. Okay? Is it clear?
So, Dr. Tahir, in obese people, they are using this form of CBD oil, that is pure CBD oil?
No. We can use a full cannabis because the overall total cannabis of the entourage effect does cause the same thing. But the CBD is very important. So you should choose either high CBD or balanced CBD so that you can get the complete action.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Now here, what does the CBD THC does? We know it increases the palatability of the food, it increases appetite, it increases calorie intake, it increases energy. So in case, if you look at only THC in obesity, is it a good or bad thing? It's bad thing. So that's why we have to understand that. So this is what you have to understand. I think the slide got blocked. Anyways. So this is what was my short presentation on obesity. I think some slides are not opening. Sorry about that. But anyways, to conclude or to give you a clear picture is that cannabis